Yeah, it's also a love story, right? Trinity.
For decades, Keanu Reeves has been known as one of the most respected and humble actors in the world. A man who seems calm, kind, and almost untouched by the chaos of fame. People see him as a symbol of goodness in an industry often criticized for ego and excess. But behind that quiet image is a life story that feels very different from what most expect. It is a story filled with movement, uncertainty, and loss from a very early age. Born in Beirut in 1964, Keanu did not grow up in one stable place. His parents separated when he was still a child, and his father slowly disappeared from his life, leaving him to be raised by his mother, who worked hard but moved frequently due to her career. This meant that Keanu had to constantly adjust to new cities, new schools, and new people, never staying in one place long enough to feel fully settled. For a child, this kind of life can be confusing and lonely, and it shaped the way he saw the world. On top of that, he struggled in school because of dyslexia, which made reading difficult and learning in a traditional system frustrating. Many people might have felt defeated in that situation, but Keanu developed a quiet strength. He didn't always speak about his struggles, but he learned how to adapt, how to observe, and how to keep going even when things felt unstable. Before acting ever entered his life, he found passion in hockey, a sport that gave him focus and purpose. Growing up in Toronto, hockey was more than just a game. It was a dream, and for a while, it looked like that dream might become real. He was talented and dedicated, and he seriously considered pursuing it professionally. But like many moments in his life, that path was suddenly taken away when an injury ended his chances. Losing that dream could have stopped him, but instead it pushed him towards something new. Acting became his next step, not because it was easy, but because it offered a way forward. He started with small roles, commercials, and stage performances, slowly building his confidence. Unlike many actors who chase fame quickly, Keanu moved at his own pace, learning and improving without trying to force success. When he finally gained attention through films like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he became popular almost overnight. But that success came with a challenge. People began to see him as a certain type of character, and it was not easy to break out of that image. Still, he continued to take different roles, proving that he was more than just one kind of actor. With movies like Point Break and Speed, he showed his ability to lead action films, and then came the role that changed everything, Neo in The Matrix. That film made him a global icon, and from the outside, it looked like he had reached a peak of success. But while his career was rising, his personal life was facing some of the most painful moments a person could experience. In 1993, he lost his close friend River Phoenix, a loss that deeply affected him. It was not just the death of someone he worked with, but someone he had formed a real connection with. And that kind of loss stays with a person. Years later, he found love with Jennifer Syme, and for a moment, life seemed to offer him happiness again. They were expecting a child, a new beginning that could have changed everything. But tragedy struck again when their daughter was stillborn. This kind of loss is difficult to put into words, because it is not just about losing someone. It is about losing a future that never had the chance to exist. The grief affected their relationship deeply, and eventually they separated. Then, in 2001, Jennifer Syme died in a car accident, adding another devastating loss to his life. Facing one tragedy is hard enough, but facing multiple losses like this can break many people. Yet Keanu did not collapse in public or turn his pain into something for attention. Instead, he became even more quiet, more private, choosing to carry his pain in his own way. This is something many people misunderstand. His silence is not emptiness, it is strength. He continued working, continued living, and when his career slowed down years later, he faced that challenge as well. Hollywood can be unpredictable, and many actors lose their place over time. But Keanu found a way back through John Wick, a film that felt deeply connected to his own experiences. The story of a man dealing with loss and moving forward despite everything resonated with audiences, and it brought him back into the spotlight in a powerful way. But this comeback also required intense physical effort. He trained for months, learned complex fight choreography, and performed many of his own stunts. This level of dedication is rare, and it helped make the film successful, but it also took a toll on his body. Now, as he gets older, he has openly said that his body is not as strong as it once was. His knees hurt, recovery is slower, and continuing at the same level is becoming more difficult. This creates a new kind of challenge, one that is not about talent or opportunity, but about physical limits. Even so, he has not stopped completely. He continues to work, continues to stay connected to his craft, and continues to live in a way that reflects who he truly is. Outside of films, what makes Keanu Reeves stand out even more is how he treats people. There are many stories of his kindness, from helping strangers to quietly supporting charities. He has donated money to cancer research, inspired by his sister's long battle with illness, and he has done it without seeking recognition. He has given away large portions of his earnings to crew members who rarely receive such rewards, showing that he values the people behind the scenes as much as those in front of the camera. He has been seen sitting with homeless individuals, sharing food and conversation, not as a public act, but as something natural to him. These actions are not part of performance. They are part of who he is. In a world where fame often changes people, he has remained grounded, choosing humility over attention. His story is not just about success in Hollywood. It is about how a person can go through pain and still choose kindness. It shows that strength is not always loud, and that resilience can exist quietly without needing to be seen or praised. The image people have of him as a kind and humble person is not something created for the public. It is something that has been built over years of real experiences, both good and bad. And that is what makes his story so powerful, not just the fame, not just the films, but the way he has lived through everything and remained true to himself. What makes the story of Keanu Reeves even more powerful is not just the pain he has gone through, but the way he continues to live without letting that pain define him completely. After everything he experienced, the loss of his closest friend, the heartbreak of losing his child, and the tragic death of Jennifer Syme, many people expected him to step away from the world, to disappear from public life or become distant and unreachable. But instead, he did something very different. He stayed present. He continued working, continued building his career, and most importantly, continued treating people with kindness. That choice is not as simple as it sounds. When someone goes through repeated loss, it often creates fear. Fear of getting close to others, fear of losing again, fear of feeling that same pain. Yet Keanu never allowed that fear to completely close him off. He may have become more private, but he did not become cold. This balance between distance and humanity is what makes him unique. Even during the years when his career slowed down and Hollywood seemed to move on, he did not try to force his way back into the spotlight. He did not chase trends or try to change himself to fit what the industry wanted. Instead, he waited for the right moment, and when that moment came with John Wick, he embraced it fully. The role of John Wick was not just another action character. It was a deeply emotional role about a man dealing with grief and isolation. Audiences connected with it instantly, and part of that connection came from how real it felt. Keanu's performance carried a quiet sadness beneath the action, something that cannot be easily faked. It reflected a level of understanding that only comes from real-life experience. As the series grew, with each new film becoming more successful, Keanu once again found himself at the top of Hollywood. But unlike many stars, he did not let that success change his lifestyle. He continued to live simply, often choosing normal activities over luxury. People have seen him riding public transportation, walking alone through the city, or sitting quietly in places without drawing attention to himself. These moments may seem small, but they reveal something important about his character. He does not see himself as above others. He does not create distance between himself and everyday life. Instead, he remains connected to it. Another important part of his story is how he handles generosity. There are many stories about how he has shared his earnings with others, especially the crew members who work behind the scenes on films. During the making of The Matrix, he reportedly gave a significant portion of his salary to the visual effects and costume teams, recognizing their contribution to the film's success. This is not something most actors would do, especially at the height of their fame. It shows that he understands the value of teamwork and respects the people who help bring a project to life. His generosity is not limited to the film industry. He has also supported medical research and charities, particularly those related to cancer, inspired by his sister's long fight with the disease. What makes this even more meaningful is that he often does it quietly, without attaching his name or seeking public recognition. This approach reflects a deeper understanding of giving, not as a way to gain attention, but as a way to genuinely help others. As he grows older, new challenges continue to appear. The physical demand of action films have taken a toll on his body, and he has openly admitted that continuing at the same level may not always be possible. This is a difficult reality for someone who has built part of his identity around intense roles and physical performance. It forces him to consider the future in a different way, to think about what comes next when the body can no longer keep up at the same pace. But even in this situation, there is no sign of fear or desperation. Instead, there's acceptance. He understands that change is a natural part of life, and he approaches it with the same calm attitude that has defined him for years. Beyond his work and public image, what truly stands out is how consistent he has remained as a person. In an industry where many people change quickly under pressure of fame, he has stayed grounded. He does not seek constant attention. He does not rely on controversy to stay relevant. And he does not try to present a perfect image. What people see is what they get: a human being with strengths, weaknesses, and a life story that includes both success and pain. This authenticity is rare, and it is one of the main reasons why he is so widely respected. His journey also highlights an important idea about strength. Many people think of strength as something loud and visible, something that stands out and demands attention. But Keanu Reeves shows a different kind of strength, one that is quiet and steady. It is the strength to keep going after loss, to remain kind in a world that can be harsh, and to stay true to oneself even when everything around is changing. This kind of strength does not always get recognized immediately, but it has a lasting impact. People connect with it because it feels real. It reminds them that it is possible to go through difficult experiences without losing the ability to care about others. As time goes on, his legacy will likely be defined by more than just his films. Of course, movies like Speed, The Matrix, and the John Wick series will always be remembered. But what truly sets him apart is the way he has lived his life. He has shown that success does not have to come at the cost of kindness, that fame does not have to create distance, and that pain does not have to lead to bitterness. His story is not perfect, and it is not easy, but it is real. And in many ways, that is what makes it so powerful as the years continue to pass. Keanu Reeves seems to exist in a space that very few celebrities ever reach. He is still one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Yet he moves through life with a level of simplicity that feels almost unusual for someone of his status. There is no constant need to prove himself, no visible struggle to stay relevant, and no attempt to compete with younger actors who are entering the industry. Instead, there is a quiet confidence in the way he chooses his projects and the way he carries himself in public. This calm approach comes from experience, from years of understanding that success and failure are both temporary, and that neither should define who a person truly is. Even as discussions continue about whether he will return for another chapter of the John Wick series, he does not rush to give answers or make promises. He speaks honestly about his physical limits, acknowledging that his body has taken years of impact and may not be able to handle the same level of intensity again. That honesty is refreshing in an industry where many people try to hide weakness or pretend that time does not affect them. Keanu does the opposite. He accepts reality and speaks about it openly, showing that there is strength in recognizing one's limits rather than ignoring them. At the same time, he remains connected to the creative world in different ways, exploring new ideas and continuing to work on projects that interest him rather than simply chasing what is popular. His involvement in storytelling has expanded beyond acting, showing that his passion for creativity is still very much alive, even if his approach to it is evolving. What also stands out in this stage of his life is the way he reflects on the past without being trapped by it. The losses he experienced, including the death of River Phoenix and Jennifer Syme, are not things that disappear over time. They remain part of the story, shaping how he sees relationships, how he values time, and how he connects with others. But instead of allowing those memories to hold him back, he seems to carry them with a sense of quiet respect. He does not turn them into public narratives or use them to gain sympathy. Instead, they exist as part of his internal world, influencing his actions in ways that are not always visible but can be felt. This approach allows him to move forward without denying what he has been through. It is a balance that many people struggle to achieve, and it reflects a level of emotional maturity that has been built over many years. His life shows that healing does not always mean forgetting or completely moving on. Sometimes it means learning how to live with what has happened and finding a way to continue despite it. In many ways, Keanu Reeves represents a different idea of what success can look like. It is not only about awards, money, or global recognition, even though he has achieved all of those things. It is also about how a person chooses to live when no one is watching. His decision to remain grounded, to avoid unnecessary attention, and to treat others with respect has created a legacy that goes beyond his films. People admire him not just for his work in movies like The Matrix or Speed, but for the way he behaves in everyday situations. Stories of his kindness continue to appear, not because he is trying to create an image, but because that is simply who he is. Whether it is helping someone in need, sharing a moment of conversation with a stranger, or supporting important causes without public recognition, these actions build a picture of a person who understands the value of humanity. In a world where many public figures are carefully managed and presented, his authenticity stands out. It feels natural, not constructed, and that is why people connect with it so strongly. Looking ahead, there's a sense that Keanu Reeves is entering a new phase of his life, one that may be less focused on intense physical roles and more focused on meaningful work and personal balance. This does not mean he is stepping away completely, but rather that he is adjusting to the reality of time and experience.